How do you know you married the right person? Somewhere between I do and is this it? The questions begin. Not always out loud, sometimes in silence, sometimes in traffic, sometimes in the stillness right before the light turns green. Nicole was married, but in the back of her mind, every single day, she wondered if she had married the wrong man. She never said it out loud, not even in her sleep. But some mornings when the traffic barely moved and the fog hung low over the Bay Bridge, she'd whisper it to herself, just to see how it sounded. Did I make the wrong choice? Or worse, there's someone else I'm supposed to be with. That was the thought that crept in on mornings like this, when the podcast was the only thing keeping her from cussing out every idiot inching between lanes, risking their lives just to move a few feet ahead. She tapped the steering wheel with her bold red nails and turned up the volume. The divine route has its own process, one designed to guide us gently toward our final merge. The host's voice hummed through her speakers. It's a finely tuned mechanism that knows exactly when to urge us forward, slow us down, bring us to a complete stop, or redirect us entirely. Nicole exhaled. It was comforting how the words always met her exactly where she was. When we heed the warnings, follow the rhythm, and remain aware of the drivers around us, we move with divine timing. The host continued, her voice velvet smooth and maddeningly calm. But the moment we veer off course, usually from impatience, we invite collisions, detours, and wrong turns. That's when congestion begins. Nicole smirked bitterly and let her eyes flick across the cluster of brake lights in front of her. Congestion. What a perfect fucking word for this mess. Nicole's mind drifted. There's someone for everyone, her mama used to say. She'd say it in response to everything Nicole complained about growing up. Her looks, her weight, her sharp tongue. Don't go changing yourself, baby. Your soulmate might not recognize you. She used to roll her eyes at that, but now she wondered if her mother had been right all along. Her mom had an eerie sense for parent people. Everyone said so. Nicole had always hoped her mom would give her a knowing look the day she brought Darius home. Some quiet confirmation that he was the one. But her mom passed just months before that ever happened. And now, she didn't know what she believed. Darius sat in his Skyview corner office, staring at the fog-drenched skyline, typing his 20th apology letter to Nicole. The tension of their latest argument still buzzed in his head. He had forgotten her birthday again for the third year in a row. He needed her to understand that his demanding job consumed every part of him, even the corners where light couldn't reach. Spending entire days buried in numbers made him numb to connection. He barely spoke to his mom anymore. The work bled into weekends. The deadlines never let up. So when he came home with a briefcase full of client files and his office iPad instead of flowers or a card, Nicole didn't even yell. She just walked out and stayed gone all night. He pressed send, then closed the tab and told his assistant to book a reservation at the most expensive restaurant in the city. He also ordered 6 Van Cleef necklaces in a variety of colors, a bouquet of long-stemmed roses, and a Neiman Marcus gift card, her favorite store. It was a ridiculous bill, but Nicole was worth every dime. He wanted her to feel seen, cared for, loved. Deep down in the quiet corners of his heart, he wondered if this was guilt disguised as affection. He thought love would thaw out the frozen parts of his heart, but the numbness never went away. And in moments like this, quiet, removed, hollow, he sometimes wondered what life without Nicole would look like. They'd been together so long, they had become more like decorations in each other's lives. But honestly, they never learned how to depend on each other. They were too independent, too self-contained. And in the end, that didn't bring them closer. It pushed them apart. Kalisha groaned as she placed the white plastic stick on the counter. 2 bright pink plus signs in both boxes popped up the moment her piss touched the stick. She placed the pregnancy test down again and reread the instructions 3 times. She was stuck on the part where it suggested waiting 7 minutes before reading the result. She hoped this meant it might change. Hoped there was a chance the test could be wrong. She paced the marble bathroom so much the cold tile floor had become warm beneath her feet. Just as she sat on the toilet, her phone timer went off, beeping frantically as if it prompted her heart to do the same. She held her breath as she stood against the wall and peered down at the stick. After seeing the positive result pop up again, she yelled even louder, tossing the test so hard it broke in 2 pieces. She should have been excited. This was the moment most women dream of. But her first thought wasn't baby names or nursery colors. It was, how could I have been so careless? Hassan sat in his car outside of his and Kalisha's home, gripping the steering wheel, trying to remember the version of Kalisha he fell in love with. She used to be carefree, laughing until she snorted, doing little dances in the kitchen when she cooked. Now she barely looked at him, and when she did, it was with resentment in her eyes and coldness in her tone. He hadn't been the perfect husband in the beginning, but he was doing all he could to fix it. For a while, he felt like she wanted him to, needed him to. But at some point, she stopped caring. She stopped trying. Stopped loving him. The smallest things turned into big things, which led to her moving out of their bedroom and clocking out of their marriage Last night, he asked her what he could do to fix it, and she replied, "I don't think I want you to." So coldly it chilled him. He got so angry he punched a hole in the cream stucco wall next to their bedroom door. Kalisha locked herself in the bathroom and refused to deal with him when he got like that. So, he'd gone to the car where he now sat, playing an old Al Jarreau album to calm his nerves. Their marriage was in limbo and he struggled to find the silver lining. As tenderness started to play, he reclined the cold leather seat, turned his head toward the window, and thought to himself, "Is this love?" Zara lay on her side of the bed, wide awake as Khalil snored softly beside her. The sex was always good, passionate, intense, consistent. But afterward, he always rolled over, said good night, and shut down like a computer powering off. They never talked anymore. It was all surface level, all physical. She missed being seen by him. Felt like an object, not a woman with thoughts, feelings, and a soul. She wanted depth. She wanted his mind. But every time she tried to talk about anything real, he made a joke or changed the subject. And she knew he had faked it. She didn't feel the sticky, loose residue of her husband's release this time. It had happened multiple times in the last week. Even after amazing, intense sessions where he claimed to climax and turned over to sleep. But she knew he didn't. She could tell. And deep down, she knew it was because he knew what she had done. So every night, she lay next to a man who lied because she held a secret of her own. Khalil opened his eyes and watched Zara's nude silhouette toss and turn. Her sternum rose and fell as she slept. Her large breasts swayed every time she moved, only turning him on more as he ran his fingers through her long, layered locks. Her full lips parted and closed gently as she breathed. Her deep chocolate skin glistened, some areas still slick from his saliva. The memory of their long love-making session was still fresh. Her beauty had him in awe of her, as it always did, even still after 15 years together. She was a true vision of beauty under the moonlit lighting of their high-rise condo. In the lullaby of the city's subtle song, a painful truth returned. He had fallen for a beautiful liar, one who deceived seamlessly. He lay his head on her supple breast, caressed her arm, and thought to himself, "Are we gonna make it after this?" Orion screamed as he snatched his keys off the side table near the front door of their modern luxury home. Brianna grabbed a ceramic vase and launched it toward him, but he slammed the door just in time. It shattered against the hardwood floor. Water, shards, and a dozen pink peonies crashing down violently. "My favorite vase!" she yelled as she dropped to her knees, cleaning the mess while still fussing at herself like he could hear her. "Maybe if you could stay hard for longer than 5 seconds, I wouldn't be so tense," she muttered under her breath. She grabbed the towel from the laundry room, tossed it over the puddle by the door, then snatched her car keys. As she whipped open the door, she saw Orion still in the driveway, on the phone, shouting obscenities about her, probably venting to one of his friends. She stormed toward him, blind with rage, barely missing a pile of dog crap by inches. Gripping the car door handle, she yanked it open and reached for his keys, yelling at the top of her lungs. But Orion knocked her hand away before she could grab them. Her hand slammed against the steering wheel so hard it vibrated. That made her even angrier. She began ripping things apart. The visor mirror, gone. The lid of the center console, snatched. The sunblock in the driver's seat, thrown. Just as she went for the phone holder on the dashboard, he started the car. The engine roared, and with her body halfway in, she lost her balance. She tumbled out violently, hitting the ground with a sickening thud. Her back slammed into the concrete brick lining the driveway. She couldn't move. Her leg was scraped and bloody. Her back stung so bad it made her dizzy. And to make matters worse, her head of thick, coiled, shoulder-length hair had landed directly in that pile of dog crap she missed earlier. Brianna lay on the ground, bruised, humiliated, in pain. The sun beamed down, warm and unbothered, shining directly in her teary eyes. "Happy birthday to me," she snickered bitterly. "You gotta go back and check if she's okay," Terry said through the phone as Orion merged onto the freeway. "No point now," Orion muttered, switching lanes like a madman, heart pounding with the leftover rage. "Bro, go check on your wife." "Nah, that woman's head so hard she could take a brick to the skull and not flinch," Orion said. "She's so damn independent and don't need nobody. Cool, let her figure out how to get off the damn ground." Terry let him vent. That's what they did for each other. Orion had listened to Terry rant about his girl more times than he could count. Tonight, it was Orion's turn. He raged on, cursing Brianna's name and her great-grandmother's stillborn. He was that mad. Orion was an alpha. So was Brianna. And when they fought hard. Pride always came first. Neither of them ever wanted to be the one to fold. They fought everywhere. Family gatherings, kids' birthday parties, vacations, grocery stores, even funerals. But Orion was tired. So tired. They didn't agree on anything. Not even what position to have sex in. As they got older, he tried to be more flexible. But Brianna saw that as weakness, used it as permission to push him until he exploded. Every conversation felt like a lecture. Every compromise was met with criticism. Nothing ever felt soft, or safe, or sacred. He pulled over. His tires screeched against the curb. His heart was still racing. He leaned back against the headrest, eyes burning, as the sun dipped low across the city skyline. In the rearview mirror, he caught a glimpse of himself. His face looked twisted. His lips curled down, eyebrows pinched so tightly they nearly touched. The vein in his neck throbbed, his shirt soaked in sweat from the rage boiling inside of him. He didn't recognize himself. Who was this man? This bitter, angry, reckless man who sped away from his own wife, pushed her out of the car, and didn't even turn back. He didn't know who he had become, and he didn't know what that meant. All he could do was sit there, stare at his reflection, and let a single tear fall from the corner of his eye. "Babe," Simone said as she gently nudged Isaac's arm. "Can you scratch my back a little? I've got an itch." She rolled over, blanket slipping down as she turned away from him. He scratched absently at her shoulders until she shifted to guide his hand lower. "Right there?" he asked. "Yeah, a little harder," she answered, her tone playful. She leaned closer, expecting him to read between the lines. The tension in the room was heavy, but he stayed still. Simone took a deep breath, her frustration growing. It had been months since they'd shared real closeness. Not even a kiss on her neck, not even a moment of passion. Just a quiet good night and the sound of him pulling his blanket over himself. She missed being wanted. She missed being seen. Lately, she caught herself questioning everything: her body, her laugh, even her worth as a partner. And the longer it went on, the more she wondered if anyone else might notice her, even though she'd never crossed that line. That night, as Isaac turned his back to her once again, she excused herself. She told herself it was fine, but deep down, she felt invisible. Isaac hadn't meant for things to get this way. He loved Simone deeply, but somehow along the way, his body stopped keeping up with his heart. Stress, maybe? Or something physical he didn't understand. Every time she looked at him with that hope in her eyes, he panicked. He'd pretend to be asleep or find a way to avoid it. Not because he didn't want her, but because he was terrified of letting her down. The more pressure he felt, the harder it became. So he avoided it. But he knew the cost. He could see the sadness in her eyes, hear it in her silence. And even though he knew it wasn't her fault, she was starting to believe it was. He wanted to fix it. He just didn't know how. Malika sat at the edge of their couch, remote in hand, but not really watching the TV. Dinner plates were still on the coffee table. Edges lay just right, but her jaw was tight. She hadn't been able to relax all day. Tyrell was in the kitchen leaning against the counter, FaceTiming his mama for the third time today. It wasn't that Malika hated his mother. At first, she'd even tried to win her over, but years of slick comments, cold stares, and showing up in places she didn't belong had drained her patience. Holidays, birthdays, even arguments that had nothing to do with her, his mama always found a way to slide herself in. And Tyrell, he never checked her, not once. Whenever she says something slick, you just let it slide, Malika had told him before. She don't mean no harm, he'd always reply. But she did mean harm. The shade wasn't accidental. Just this morning, his mama had whispered, "Hope you can hold this house down better than your mama did hers." When Malika repeated it to Tyrell, he chuckled, like she was being dramatic, like her hurt was funny. Now, Malika sat on the couch, her husband in the kitchen telling his mama good night, like she was the one he shared a bed with. Tyrell stared at his reflection in the dark TV screen after hanging up, phone still in his hand. His mama had been running her mouth as usual, and he just went along with it. But in the corner of his eye, he saw the way Malika had looked at him earlier, like she couldn't even recognize the man she married. He hated being in the middle. He loved his mama. She raised him alone, worked 2 jobs, held him down when nobody else did. He owed her everything. So when she threw little jabs at Malika, he brushed them off. That was just mama. She earned her place. But lately, he was starting to wonder if the place she was taking was his wife's. He replayed the moment from earlier when his mama whispered in Malika's ear and Malika froze, her whole body shutting down. He hadn't meant to laugh. It wasn't funny. He was just nervous, unsure of what to say without making it worse. Now, looking at his tired reflection, one question echoed louder than the rest. Was his loyalty to his mother slowly costing him his marriage? As these couples sat in their separate corners of silence, some aching for touch, some craving respect, some begging for peace, the weight of their choices pressed heavy. Different houses, different problems, but the same traffic. Love wasn't flowing, it was stalled. Every whispered doubt, every slammed door, every lonely night was proof of what happens when emotions, pride, and fear pile up on the same road. Congestion. And the longer it lingers, the tighter it gets. One wrong turn becomes 2. A delay becomes a deadlock, and before long, you can't tell if you're standing still or if you ever moved at all. This is where most couples live, stuck in emotional traffic, knowing where they want to go, but unable to get there. But sometimes the real slowdown isn't the road itself, it's the bottleneck. And on the divine route, some will fight through the congestion and stay their course. Others will realize it's time to take a detour. Tune in next week to see which couples can clear their lane and which will have no choice but to exit. On the divine route, love is the road, the firm, grounding concrete that carries us toward our destiny. It's also the fuel that pushes our hearts forward, keeps us moving, breathing, thriving. But the things we can't see, our fears of becoming our parents, the pressure to get it right, our hunger for love in ways our partners don't know how to give. Our buried traumas, the toxic patterns passed down like heirlooms, those become bottlenecks. They're the reason we stall. Just like in real traffic, sometimes a bottleneck is temporary. A quick slowdown and then you move again. But other times, it's the warning sign that you took a wrong turn, that you're on the wrong route entirely. Maybe you chose the wrong partner. Maybe your partner is stuck in their own jam. Maybe you've both hit a point where the only way forward is to switch lanes, clear the blockage, and risk changing everything. Either way, you reach that moment on the divine route where you whisper to yourself, something's gotta change. The cafe was bright and warm, all sunlit windows and soft jazz humming from the speakers, but Nicole felt cold. She sat tucked into the corner booth, iced matcha sweating between her palms, stirring it until the clinking ice drowned out her thoughts. It had been 4 days since she last spoke to Darius. 4 days since he forgot her birthday again. This time, he followed it with an avalanche of Van Cleef necklaces, a dinner reservation at Hay Street Grill, and a flurry of apology texts that read more like corporate statements than apologies. Sanaa sat across from her watching her spiral. 6 necklaces? She said, eyes wide, as if that meant something. Nicole's laugh was hollow. Somewhere along the way, their marriage had turned into a business arrangement. Him investing, her performing. The love was still there, buried under receipts and resentment. But it was cold now, distant. None of the gifts could give what his presence used to. Nicole was ready to give up at this point. Sanaa reached across the table, squeezing her hand gently. After all these years, are you sure you want to give up? Nicole flinched. Years. All that time and they still didn't feel like home to each other. Still not safe. Still not one. Being in love and being together are not the same thing. Downtown, Darius leaned back in his leather chair, the city's neon glow scattered behind him like jewels. He sent flowers, jewelry, the works, and still silent. Marcus's voice crackled through his phone, laid back as always. Maybe she wants more than diamonds this time, he said. I know I forgot her birthday, Darius muttered, but I owned it. I showed up, and that's the thanks I get. But even as the words left his mouth, his chest tightened. Marcus sighed. Talking is cheaper than necklaces, bro. Darius stared at the untouched bouquet on his desk, petals already curling at the edges. He thought about all the ways he'd been taught to show love. Through effort, through providing, through things. Never presents, never words. Maybe he didn't know how. Maybe she didn't care anymore. Maybe nothing he did would ever be enough. The hum of the ultrasound machine faded into silence as Kalisha buttoned her blouse. The doctor smiled politely, words floating somewhere far away. You're still very early. We can't get an accurate due date yet. Kalisha nodded, though her mind wasn't in the room. Not on the baby, not on the follow-up appointment, just on the storm waiting for her at home. Minutes later, she sat in her car parked outside the clinic, engine off and heart racing. Her friend's voice crackled through her speakerphone. So, how are you feeling about all this? Kalisha's eyes blurred on the steering wheel. Scared. I don't know how he's gonna react. Girl, after everything he put you through, a baby is not the worst thing that could happen to y'all. Tears slid soundlessly down her cheeks. She remembered the night she begged him to be gentle with her heart, and how he broke it anyway. He had been trying lately. Flowers, therapy suggestions, soft words where once there were sharp ones. But the truth was harder to say aloud. He pushed her to the edge of the love she had for him. And once she crossed that edge, something inside her stopped coming back. So, do you even want to stay with him? Her friend asked quietly. The question is, will he stay with me after all this? The lunchroom buzzed with low chatter and clinking utensils. But Hassan barely touched his food. His phone lay face down on the table, screen dark, while he stared into the steam rising off his coffee like it held answers. Across from him, his coworker, Devin, scrolled through his phone, then glanced up at a defeated face with bags bigger than the hole he once punched in their wall. Devin clowned him for the lack of sleep showing on his face, but Hassan gave a humorless laugh. She barely looks at me anymore. It's like someone flipped a switch from fire to ice. Devin raised a brow and insisted this was a delayed response, telling Hassan about the battle he and his wife had faced a couple years back. He warned him that women may not always respond when it happens, but the longer it takes, the worse it is. Hassan rubbed the back of his neck, shame burning. He'd hoped the flowers, the apologies, the promises would erase it. Instead, they just made the silence louder. The hate only seemed to intensify as time passed, like she was realizing how much she disliked him in real time. And the love decreased by the day. How'd you fix it? Hassan asked, counseling. But she had to want to fix it too. Hassan nodded slowly, though his chest tightened, because deep down, he wasn't sure Kalisha did. He wanted to fight for their marriage. He just wasn't sure he had anyone to fight with. Sometimes, the worst bottlenecks come after the crash is cleared. When you think the danger has passed, but love is still crawling from the wreckage. And until both people choose to move forward, nothing moves at all. Sunlight slid down the glass walls of Zara's corner office, gilding everything in gold. The city post below, but inside her office, there was only silence. She lounged in her designer chair, legs crossed, phone balanced loosely in her hand, as her friend's voice hummed on speaker. Zara barely heard her. Her eyes stayed fixed on the sleek family portrait on her desk. Her and Khalil, flawless, frozen, perfect. Perfect and completely hollow. They didn't talk anymore, didn't laugh, didn't look at each other for longer than a passing glance. They still touched, but even that had become mechanical, rehearsed. Like dancers who hated the music but knew the steps by heart. Her friend asked something. She wasn't sure what, and Zara's lips curved in a humorless smile. "I think he knows," she murmured. There was silence on the line. Then, questions. But Zara had already pulled the phone from her ear, setting it face down on the marble desk. She spun slowly in her chair, staring out over the city, waiting, wondering which would break first, her silence or his. The house was dim, quiet except for the soft tick of the antique clock. Khalil sat across from his father in the den, cradling a glass of whiskey. The air smelled of cedar and old books, a stillness pressing in from all sides. His father had been talking about children, about the future. Khalil had just shrugged. He didn't see a future anymore, not clearly. He thought about Zara, about how she seemed to glide through life like a secret in stilettos. How every time he got close to uncovering something, she would slip her arms around him, press her lips to his neck, and pull him under her spell. Every confrontation ended in seduction. Every question dissolved in heat. And afterward he would lie beside her, breathless and numb, realizing he still knew nothing. His dad offered some advice, told him to talk to her. "I've tried," he finally said, his voice low. "But she uses her beauty like armor, like a weapon. I just want her to feel safe enough to tell me the truth." His father watched him for a long moment, then leaned forward. "There are two kinds of liars," he said. "The ones who do it when they're uncomfortable, and the ones who are too comfortable doing it. Figure out which one you're married to and decide appropriately." Khalil's chest tightened, because he was starting to fear Zara might be the latter. And if she was, what else was she hiding? You know, bottlenecks aren't just blocks. They're checkpoints. On the divine route, they show up when love has stalled long enough to force a question. Is this the lane I'm meant to be in? Or have I been riding with the wrong passenger this whole time? See, everyone thinks wrong turns are obvious, like chaos, betrayal, or heartbreak. But most of the time, they look like comfort. They feel familiar. They're peaceful enough to settle into until you realize you've been circling the same exit for years. Final merges are different. They challenge you, but they also grow with you. They sharpen your edges without cutting you down. And when congestion hits, they don't abandon the car. They help you clear the lane. So if you're sitting in the middle of a bottleneck right now, don't just wait for it to pass. Ask yourself if the person next to you is really your destination or just a stop you weren't meant to stay at. The guest house smelled faintly of lavender and ointment. Brianna sat curled on the edge of the bed in her silk robe, an ice pack balanced on her swollen ankle. Daylight slanted through sheer curtains, striping the floor in gold. The TV played soul food on low, muffled laughter and music floating through the quiet. Her mother's voice crackled through the phone on speaker, sharp and protective, cutting through the haze. "You need to press charges, and don't you dare give him any. He needs to suffer." But Brianna barely heard her. She was staring at the screen as Maxine and Kenny danced and kissed in the kitchen. And something inside her cracked open. She had never seen softness growing up, not once. Every woman she knew had been hard, sharp-tongued, unyielding, armored, even the married ones. Love had always looked like survival, like endurance, like war. And now, here she was, bruised, humiliated, and aching, but still aching more for tenderness than revenge. Maybe Orion wasn't the enemy. Maybe she was. In the main house, Orion sat hunched forward on the couch, elbows on his knees, staring at the muted TV as his best friend Terry talked. The living room was dim except for the warm spill of light from the kitchen, but Orion's mind was elsewhere. Back in the guest house, back at the moment everything had cracked. He just wanted softness, just wanted to be in love with her, to feel her love him back without having to fight for it. But every attempt at tenderness seemed to bounce off her like water on stone. The softer he became, the harder she got. Terry was saying something about how some women were raised in survival mode, how softness scares them. How maybe he had to be softer than her defenses, patient enough to wait out the storm. Orion nodded faintly, though his chest ached. He had loved Brianna with everything in him. But if she couldn't meet him halfway, if every kiss was met with suspicion and every offering of peace was turned into another war, he wasn't sure how much longer he could stay. The grass was cool beneath her legs as Simone collapsed into the backyard, breath still ragged, sweat slick on her skin from the punishing workout she'd forced herself through. Her lungs burned, her thighs trembled, but the ache in her chest was louder than it all. Her best friend saddled across from her, cross-legged, watching quietly. The late sun washed the yard in gold, but Simone felt gray inside. She let out a short, breathless, and brittle, had to burn off all this energy somehow. She murmured, though her smile didn't reach her eyes, because there was nowhere else for that energy to go. Not lately. Not since the last miscarriage. Grief had hollowed her out, but the loneliness after had been worse. The silence in their bedroom had stretched wider and wider until it felt like a canyon, echoing and cold. No touches, no desire, no intimacy. Whenever she reached for him, he would flinch. Or worse, pretend not to notice. It made her feel like a ghost haunting her own marriage. And now, every time he stayed late at work or kept his gaze locked on his phone when he was home, her mind whispered old lies she thought she'd buried. You're too much, too broken, too hard to love, just like the other said. Her friend broke the silence, sliding a chilled water bottle into her palm before gently resting a hand on her knee. Then, she pushed her phone across the grass, an open link glowing on the screen. Some discreet little site for men's performance bills. Maybe it's physical, her friend said softly, carefully, like she was handling something fragile. Simone stared at the screen, then at her friend. Tears blurring them both. She didn't care what it was. She just wanted to feel again. The fluorescent lights in the pharmacy hummed like judgment. Isaac stood at the counter, shoulders stiff, eyes fixed on the credit card machine instead of the small white bag being slid toward him. Here you go, sir. Like he was handing over cough drops instead of a remedy for his crumbling masculinity. Isaac forced a polite smile and snatched the bag quickly, slipping it into his jacket pocket before anyone could see. The label read testosterone supplement, burned through the paper like a scarlet letter. He walked out briskly, head down, the automatic doors whooshing shut behind him like sealing away the humiliation. Outside, the late afternoon sun made everything look too bright, too exposed. He hated that the world was still spinning like nothing had changed when inside him everything felt broken. He slid into the driver's seat of his SUV and sat there for a moment, forehead resting against the steering wheel, the small paper bag digging into his side. Then he pulled out his phone and hit his brother's name. Yo, his brother answered. What's up? There was a long silence before Isaac spoke, voice low and cracked. They said it's low testosterone. His brother let out a slow whistle. Damn. Okay. Well, that's fixable, right? Yeah. They gave me pills. Isaac stared out the windshield, watching strangers cross the parking lot, laughing, holding hands. He felt 100 miles from them. I haven't even told Simone, he whispered. I can't. She's already wondering what's wrong with her. If I tell her this, she's gonna think it's her fault, that she's not enough. She's your wife, man. She deserves the truth, his brother said gently. I feel like less than a man, Isaac muttered. Like I failed her. She'd rather know the truth than think you don't want her. his brother said. But if you wait too long, somebody else might make her feel wanted again. Malika sat cross-legged on the plush carpet of her walk-in closet, the soft glow of the chandelier catching on the jeweled heels cradled in her hands. Her wedding shoes. The silk was still immaculate, untouched by time, unlike the rest of her marriage. Her cousin slid down beside her with 2 glasses of wine, the stem of hers gently tapping against the floor. Dinner had been ruined again the night before. She had spent hours setting the table, lighting candles, marinating lamb chops, just the way Tyrell liked them. But then his mother had appeared, smiling like she owned the place, and stayed the entire evening. And when she finally left, she called Terrell the moment she got home and stayed on the phone with him until well after midnight. She lives 5 minutes away, Malika whispered, staring at the shoes in her lap. 5 minutes, and still, she's always here. Her cousin sighed. Feels like she's trying to keep her son, not just love him. That's exactly what it feels like, Malika said, voice trembling now. I tried to help her at first, be understanding, but then she started inserting herself into our fights, whispering things to him about me, about our home, like I don't belong here. Her cousin leaned her head against Malika's shoulder. This pattern, it won't end unless you make it. She's not going to let go. Malika gave a bitter laugh that caught halfway in her throat. That woman will be hanging on by a thread, one leg, half a heart before she lets me have that man. So maybe I'm the one who has to walk away, because I'm not competing with another woman for my husband, even if that woman gave birth to him. Across town, Tyrell sat hunched over a burger basket at a corner booth, his brother across from him nursing a soda. He had invited him out for advice, hoping for clarity. What he got was a wall. I'd never let a woman make me choose between her and Mama, his brother said flatly. Mama comes first, always has. Tyrell stared at the table, jaw clenched. I already chose. I married Malika. Yeah, but Mama doesn't have many good years left, his brother shot back. 74. She's fragile. You push her away now, you'll regret it later. Malika's young. She'll be around another 50 years. Mama won't. Tyrell pushed the fries around his plate, his appetite gone. He thought about the look in Malika's eyes last night, how empty it had been, like she was already half gone. I don't want to lose either of them, he said quietly. His brother shrugged. Then hold on to Mama while you can and hope your wife sticks around. Tyrell sat back, the noise of the diner fading around him, a hollow ringing filling his ears, because he knew the truth. Hope wouldn't be enough, and if he didn't make a choice soon, Malika was going to make it for him. On the divine route, love is the road. The firm, grounding concrete meant to carry us forward. But when fear creeps in, when resentment lingers, when loyalty pulls you one way and longing pulls you another, the road begins to clog. That's what bottlenecks are. They aren't the absence of love, they're love stuck. Love building and building with nowhere to go. Tyrell wants to honor the woman who raised him. Malika just wants to feel like the woman he chose. Neither of them is wrong, but both of them are stuck. And the truth is, they're not the only ones. Because the things we can't see, the pressure to be perfect, the urge to fix what broke us, the fear of being unloved, unseen, or replaced. These are the invisible blocks that bring even the strongest relationships to a standstill. And once love stalls, pressure builds until something snaps. Because if they don't move the bottleneck will move them. And that's when the storms roll in. Next week, we'll see which couples can weather it and which ones get completely swept off the road. I'm on my period. The rejection hung between them. Hassan leaned back, trying to cover his disappointment with nostalgia. Remember when you used to bake cookies on nights like this? We'd sit up, watch Power, laugh like we didn't have a care in the world. Her eyes snapped to his, bitterness sharp enough to cut. Yeah, a couple of weeks before I found condoms in your car. The thunder outside cracked, almost on cue. Emotional weather. On the divine route, congestion is already bad enough. Cars piled in lanes, horns blaring, everyone inching forward with nowhere to go. But then, add a storm. The rain comes, the road gets slick, and the drivers who still choose to rush or ignore the signs end up colliding. One wreck becomes two, then three. Before long, whole lanes are shut down. The traffic isn't just clogged anymore. It's paralyzed. And that's exactly what happens in love. When the storm hits, grief, betrayal, silence, disappointment, the road doesn't just slow. It stalls. The damage multiplies. The rescue crews can't keep up. Couples are stranded, stuck on the divine route with no exits, no end in sight. And when the storm lingers long enough, people start to get out. They leave their cars. They walk the road. Some travel alone. Some slip into other lanes, looking for shelter in someone else's vehicle. Because storms don't just test the road. They test the passenger. And not every couple survives the weather. Nicole and Darius. The television filled the colorful beachfront home with the grim voice of the weatherman. Nicole didn't move. She sat curled under a blanket, legs tucked beneath her, eyes fixed on the flashing red ticker at the bottom of the screen. The storm outside rattled the glass, but inside, it was the silence between her and Darius that felt louder. The office door slammed open. Darius stepped out, sleeves rolled up, phone in hand, jaw tight. I might need to leave for a lunch meeting, he muttered, more to himself than her. Nicole laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that cut through the drone of the news. Of course, they just said it's too dangerous to drive, but God forbid you miss a meeting. Work always comes first. His brow furrowed. This is how we afford this house, Nicole. How we afford everything. She yanked the blanket tighter, reached for the remote, and turned the volume up. He snatched it back, clicked the TV off, and sat across from her. For once, he wasn't running. Talk to me. The words broke her. Days of silence spilled out all at once. About the birthday he forgot, the jewelry she didn't want, the dinners that felt like board meetings. If I were one of your co-workers, you wouldn't forget, she snapped. But me, the wife in your house, you don't see me at all. He let her vent, shoulders heavy, eyes lowered. When she was done, he finally spoke. I just want to be appreciated. I'm killing myself out there so we can build something. So when it's time for kids, there won't be kids. She cut in, her voice cold as the rain hammering the windows. Not with you, not like this, because I don't even plan on being married much longer. He flinched. Do you even still love me? Nicole leaned forward, close enough for him to feel the heat of her breath, the sting of her words. Go ask your laptop. Then she stood, blanket trailing behind her, and disappeared down the hall. The storm outside grew wilder, battering the windows as if to echo the storm inside. That night, for the first time in years, they didn't share a bed. 2 separate rooms, 2 separate dreams. Both of them finally beginning to admit maybe the only way out of the storm was to end the marriage entirely. Hassan and Kalisha. The storm pressed heavy against the glass windows of their modern luxury home, rain streaking like restless fingers across the window. The weather advisory droned from the TV, the same one echoing in Nicole's house. Kalisha sat curled on the corner of the couch, blanket wrapped tight, eyes locked on the screen, but seeing nothing. Hassan was across from her, scrolling his phone, searching counseling directories like a man looking for directions after missing too many exits. For days, she had avoided him, sleeping late, leaving early, eating in silence. The weight of the secret in her belly grew heavier every hour. She knew the moment she told him, everything would change. With a sigh, Hassan put his phone down and crossed to her couch, sliding beneath her blanket. He grabbed her feet and began rubbing them gently, forcing a smile. You know storms turn me on, he said slightly, as if the thunder outside was some kind of aphrodisiac. Her body stayed stiff, unyielding. When he leaned closer, she pulled away. No, she muttered. I'm on my period. The rejection hung between them. Hassan leaned back, trying to cover his disappointment with nostalgia. Remember when you used to bake cookies on nights like this? We'd sit up, watch Power, laugh like we didn't have a care in the world. Her eyes snapped to his, bitterness sharp enough to cut. Yeah, a couple of weeks before I found condoms in your car. The thunder outside cracked, almost on cue. Hassan dropped his gaze, voice low. I just want to get back to that, to being happy. I'm willing to try counseling. Her laugh was short, but humorless. You seriously believe the lies, the cheating, the abuse can be fixed? He looked at her, jaw set. Yeah, I do. She shook her head slowly, the storm light flashing across her face. It can't. And even if it could, I'm not the same woman you married. Silence swallowed the room. Hassan searched her face, desperate for some flicker of hope. Are you even open to trying to fight for this? He asked, finally. Yes, she said, her voice flat. Just not with a cheater. She stood, blanket falling from her shoulders, and walked down the hall to their bedroom, leaving him in the dim glow of the TV. That night, Hassan lay alone on the couch, staring at the ceiling as the storm raged outside. From the bedroom, he heard her retching, wave after wave of nausea that she never explained. He shut his eyes tight, the sound drilling into him like a truth he wasn't ready to face. Zara and Khalil. The storm clawed at the walls of their high rise, sheets of rain streaking the glass until the glittering city disappeared in smears of gray. Inside, the condo glowed warm and golden, a cocoon of silence where Zara and Khalil lay tangled on the velvet couch, skin still damp from lovemaking. Zara rested her head against his chest, her fingers tracing idle patterns across his arm. She opened her mouth to speak, to finally bridge the gap between them. But Khalil's jaw was tight, his silence heavier than the thunder outside. His father's warning echoed in his head. So instead of answering her, he tested her. A simple question, one he already knew the answer to. And when Zara replied, her tone smooth, her eyes soft, he caught the lie instantly. Khalil sat up, the warmth between them replaced by a cold rush of anger. He moved to the window, standing against the backdrop of lightning flashing over the skyline. His reflection looked back at him, equal parts man and ghost. Behind him, Zara shifted. She knew he knew. But instead of explaining, she rose gracefully, her body a distraction she wielded like a weapon. She came to him, brushing her hand across his shoulder, pressing close in all the ways she knew he couldn't resist. "Do you ever plan to tell me the truth?" he asked, voice low, eyes still on the storm. Her lips parted in practiced confusion. About what? He turned then, holding up the folded slip of paper he found days ago, a bill for the removal of her IUD. Zara froze. For once, no words came. "You knew I didn't want kids," he said, his voice breaking at the edges. "Why would you do this?" She didn't answer, didn't flinch. Instead, she let her silence hang while her hand drifted lower, while she arched herself just enough to pull his eyes back to her body. She gave him touch instead of truth, seduction instead of confession. And once again, he gave in. Later, Zara curled against him, feigning sleep, her breathing soft and even, but Khalil lay awake, eyes open in the dark, the storm raging outside and inside. His body had been conquered, yes, but his trust had not. And now he knew. This wasn't just a rough patch. This was a deal breaker. Brianna and Orion. Rain slammed against the tall windows in rhythmic sheets, lightning flashing every few seconds and illuminating the warm caramel tones of the living room. The wind howled like a living thing, making the glass tremble. Brianna sat curled on one end of the couch, arms wrapped around her knees, robe cinched tight. Across from her, Orion scrolled aimlessly through TikTok, the glow from his phone lighting his face in soft bursts. His feed was flooded with couples, wrapped in blankets, cuddled on stormy nights, kissing under shared throws. Little reminders of everything their marriage was missing. He set the phone down and crossed the room, lowering himself beside her. Gently, he tilted her head until it rested on his shoulder. For a moment, she stayed still, rigid, but there. His arm brushed hers. Her breath hitched. Then, like a reflex, she pushed him away. Her body shifted sharply back to her side of the couch, creating distance. The moment cracked like thunder. "Why?" he asked. She stared at the floor. "I'm uncomfortable." Lightning flashed again, catching the hurt in his face. He leaned forward, desperation softening in his tone. "Please, Bree." Just let me in. I need your softness. I'll do anything for it. Anything. Her jaw tightened. I'd rather be alone than need you in any way. The words landed heavy between them, louder than the storm outside. Orion's chest rose and fell, fury and heartbreak warring behind his eyes. Without another word, he stood, walked down the hall, and slammed their bedroom door hard enough to rattle the frames on the wall. Brianna stayed on the couch, thunder rolling over the house. Her eyes filled slowly, tears slipping down her cheeks. She buried her face in her hands, whispering to herself what she couldn't say out loud. I wish I knew how to love you the way you need, but she didn't. And that terrified her more than the storm ever could. The Divine Route hosts Stormy Night. Outside, the wind screamed through the trees, slamming against the windows like an uninvited guest. But inside the host's home studio, there was a fragile, deliberate calm. Warm amber lamps cast a soft glow across the walls, muting the storm's fury. She adjusted the mic on its arm, tightened her headphones, and exhaled deeply. It was show night. Episode 127, Emotional Weather. She had built this podcast from her bedroom floor years ago, whispering hope into a mic after her own heartbreak. Now, thousands tuned in weekly to hear her break down love like road maps and traffic reports. She helped people leave wrong turns. She helped them find their final merges. But the irony, she hadn't left hers. Her phone buzzed. His name lit up the screen. Her partner. The man who had lived with her for years. The one who refused to grow with her. She hesitated, then answered. Hey, you ready for your little show? He teased. His voice was warm but distant, the kind that never stayed for the whole conversation. She forced a smile he couldn't see. You tuning in tonight? Nah, he said, chuckling. You know I don't believe in all that divine route crap, but hey, I'm cheering you on from a distance. They said their goodbyes. She set the phone down, but her fingers lingered on the screen. Her throat tightened, as she did before every show. Tears slipped quietly down her face. She had spent years telling others to be brave enough to leave their wrong turns while staying parked at hers. Maybe that's why she was so passionate, because she knew exactly what it cost to spend a lifetime stuck in emotional traffic. She dabbed at her eyes, straightened her posture, and hit record. Her voice slid into the mic, smooth and controlled, as if her heart hadn't just cracked a little wider. Welcome back to the Divine Route. Simone and Isaac. The wind howled against the house, bending the trees in the backyard, as Simone moved through the kitchen like a woman trying to outrun her thoughts. The house was warm, the lamps dim, the hum of the dishwasher steady, but inside her chest everything felt tight. She stood at the counter in her leggings and hoodie, stirring a pot of soup she had no appetite for. Her best friend's words from earlier in the week echoed in her mind. Maybe it's physical, maybe. But what about the silence? The distance? The way Isaac had started disappearing into work, letting his laptop take the place she used to hold. The front door clicked. Isaac stepped in, rain clinging to his jacket. He shook it off, placed the umbrella by the door, and gave her a tired smile that didn't reach his eyes. He had stopped at the pharmacy on the way home. The small white bag was shoved deep into his pocket like a shameful secret. Hey, she said softly, not turning fully toward him. Hey. His voice was low, cautious, like a man walking through a house full of creaking floors. They moved around each other like ghosts, neither bumping nor connecting. He retreated to the couch, laptop on his knees, answering emails like he always did. She finished cooking and placed a bowl in front of him anyway. He murmured thanks without looking up. The storm outside intensified, sheets of rain thrashing against the windows. It reminded her of the nights they used to huddle under one blanket, watching reruns and stealing kisses during commercial breaks. But now, she sat on the opposite end of the couch, knees tucked to her chest, the distance between them feeling louder than the thunder. She glanced at him. Handsome, familiar, unreachable. Her mind whispered its cruel chorus again. You're too much. Too broken. He's tired of you, just like the others. And in his pocket, the pill bottle pressed against his thigh like a ticking clock. He wanted to fix this. He wanted to tell her. But the thought of her looking at him with pity, or worse, blame, made his stomach twist. So he said nothing. She ached to be wanted. He ached to not feel broken. In between them, silence filled the house like floodwater. Tyrell and Malika. The house was glowing with that warm, golden light that made even the fiercest storms outside feel distant. Tyrell and Malika had decided, for once, to just be. No arguments, no tension. The TV played softly in the background. A candle flickered on the coffee table between them, and the scent of baked peach cobbler drifted from the kitchen. It felt cozy, intimate, like maybe, just maybe, tonight could be theirs. Malika curled against the arm of the sofa, a plush throw wrapped around her legs. Tyrell sat beside her, scrolling through a playlist. He looked relaxed, his shoulders down, his laugh easy. For the first time in a long time, Malika felt the weight in her chest ease. She thought, this is what it's supposed to feel like, just us. Then, 3 sharp knocks rattled the front door. They froze. Malika turned slowly. Confusion etched across her face. Tyrell's phone lit up on the coffee table. Before she could say anything, he was already on his feet. When he opened the door, a gust of cold wind blew in, and with it, his mother, wrapped in a thick shawl and carrying a tote bag like she was moving in. It's bad out there, she huffed dramatically, stepping past him before he even invited her in. The wind almost knocked me off my porch. I didn't want to be alone in that house. Thought I'd ride out the storm here with my baby. Malika sat up, the cozy blanket now feeling more like a trap. The advisory says the storm won't let up until morning, she said carefully. You might be here a while. His mother gave a knowing laugh. Well, I was in labor with Terrell for a whole night. Y'all can deal with me for a few hours. The guilt trip was smooth, practiced, decades in the making. Malika forced a tight smile, then gathered her blanket and stood. Enjoy your storm, she muttered, disappearing down the hall before the tears of fury could catch up. A door slammed. The lock clicked. Tyrell stood in the hallway, torn between the 2 women he loved most, and doing exactly what he always did. Nothing. Hours later, while the storm howled outside, Malika lay in their locked bedroom alone, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of laughter echoing faintly down the hall. She got up, cracked the door, and peeked. Tyrell was in the hallway, curled on a pallet of blankets next to his mama, sharing snacks like it was some damn slumber party. She was telling old stories about his childhood, and he was eating it up, laughing like a little boy. Malika closed the door slowly, her chest tight. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one brewing in her heart. On the divine route, congestion is bad enough on a clear day. But when the emotional weather turns, everything slows to a crawl. Storms don't create new problems. They just expose the cracks already in the road. Nicole and Darius, drowning in silence, each waiting for the other to say the thing that might save them. Hassan and Kalisha, trapped between guilt and truth neither of them is ready to face. Zara and Khalil, locked in a seductive stalemate where honesty should live. Brianna and Orion, one reaching out, the other too afraid to soften. Simone and Isaac, both aching and quiet, pretending the gap between them isn't widening. And Terrell and Malika, sharing a house, but not a home. These storms don't just test love, they reveal the weak points in its foundation, because when the rain hits and the winds rise, what's fragile will crack, and what's broken can finally be seen. Next week, we'll see what happens when those cracks meet the weight of mechanical failure. She didn't look up, didn't blink, just whispered, "It's not yours." He froze. The silence between heartbeats was deafening. He already knew, but hearing it carved him hollow. "And I'm not getting rid of my baby," she said finally. "He wants us, the baby and me. I've seen what you offer. Pain, confusion, bruises. He gives me peace. But we still have the business to operate, and I really don't want to have to explain any of this to our family. So if you still want to stay married and accept my baby, I'll stay and fight. But I'd rather start over with him." Hassan's chest heaved, breath shallow and sharp. His brain whispered, "You deserve this." His heart screamed, "How could she?" He punched the wall once, twice, 3 times. She lost count, his hand leaving bloody crescents in the sheetrock. She didn't even flinch. She'd seen it too many times. Their walls looked like they'd been in their own war. So many holes they had stopped inviting people over. "Does that ever make anything better?" she asked, quiet but cutting. He roared, tears spilling, voice breaking. "What am I supposed to do with this, Cal?" "Accept it," she said. "Accept the pain like I had to, and move on." The Divine Route wasn't just a podcast, it was a revelation. Its purpose? To help people figure out if the person they were with was a wrong turn or their final merge. Controversial? Absolutely. But that's what made it addictive. Every week, callers dialed in under fake names, their voices filtered, their secrets exposed. Some wanted confirmation that their partner was the one. Others needed permission to finally let go. And presiding over it all was her, the host. Calm, composed, almost prophetic. She had a voice that could turn pain into poetry, a way of making heartbreak sound holy. She called love the road, the journey everyone's on, full of exits, detours, breakdowns, and sometimes collisions. On the divine route, wrong turns weren't mistakes, they were lessons, the spiritual traffic jams that kept you from reaching your destination. And a final merge? That was what everyone prayed for. The partner you were designed to ride with until the end. But even she knew, on this highway of hearts, no one gets through without hitting congestion. Her voice came through the speaker smooth and steady, like honey coated thunder. Every journey hits that point. the Divine Route host said, her voice warm and deliberate. The moment your car starts to shake, the engine light flickers, you tell yourself it's fine, that love self corrects, fixes itself, but it doesn't. Not on this road, not on the Divine Route. Her words echoed through the city, cars idling in traffic, lovers sitting in silence, strangers scrolling in the dark. Mechanical failure, she continued, is what happens when you've ignored the signs too long, when the silence becomes distance, when you look at the person beside you and realize you're still moving, but the love stopped miles back. On the screen, the ad for the Divine Route Live glowed in gold letters. Anonymous signups, private booths, honest answers. Are you in a final merge or a wrong turn? Every one of us is driving on the Divine Route. Some in the fast lane, some barely moving, some completely stuck in emotional traffic. Congestion happens when we take wrong turns and park in spaces too long we were never meant to stay in. When love stops flowing, when communication stalls, when the road feels heavy, that's not coincidence. That's the universe signaling it's time to check your lane. This next step is for those ready to do just that. The Divine Route Live is your opportunity to finally clear the congestion. It's for the couples who keep circling the same exits, tired, confused, praying for signs. It's for the ones who feel like their love has become a traffic jam. During this event, we'll uncover the truth. Are you traveling with your final merge, the soul designed to journey with you? Or are you stuck beside a wrong turn, someone who was only meant to teach you how to drive better? This isn't about breaking people apart, it's about freeing them. Because when you clear the road, when you unclog what's been blocking your heart, love can finally move again. So ask yourself, are you brave enough to find out what lane you belong in? Because once you do, there's no going back. Across the city, her words landed like quiet explosions. They all heard the ad in different ways, different rooms, different moods, same pain. Nicole listened in her car, parked outside the spa where she'd gone to escape Darius for the afternoon. The air smelled like eucalyptus and disappointment. The words anonymous and truth made her chest tighten. She'd been starving for truth. She pressed the link, filled out the form, and when it asked for her husband's name, she typed Marcus. A lie, but one that felt like protection. Darius was on the treadmill, headphones in, catching the podcast mid sentence. He slowed down without meaning to, listening closer as the host said, "You can't fix what you refuse to face." He thought about Nicole's silence, her distance, the look in her eyes lately, that half polite, half resentful stare. By the time he finished his run, he'd signed up too. And when the form asked for his partner's name, he typed Nia. Another lie, another avoidance. Kalisha was brushing her hair in the bathroom mirror when she heard it. The ad playing faintly from a podcast she left running while she had gotten ready for bed. Find out if you're in a final merge or a wrong turn. The phrase hit like a punch. She stared at her reflection, tired eyes, swollen heart, secrets growing by the day. And without thinking, she opened the site and signed up. Under partner's name, she wrote Hakeem. Hassan sat at his work desk, scrolling half mindlessly. When the thumbnail appeared on his screen, The Divine Route Live, he'd been trying to look for counseling resources, something to save what little was left. But this ad, this voice, felt like something else. He clicked it, and though he didn't believe in fate, he filled out the form anyway. When it asked for his wife's name, he typed Kayla. The lie came too easy. Zara had paused her lipstick midway, leaning close to the mirror when she heard the words Clarity is currency. She smirked. It was a good line. Clever. But then her eyes caught her own reflection. Too perfect. Too polished. Too lonely. She finished applying the lipstick and pressed sign up. Under partner, she wrote Caden. Khalil sat in his parked car, rain starting to patter against the windshield, listening to the host's calm tone. He hadn't believed in this kind of thing before, but his father's words had been echoing for days. And maybe this was how he'd find out. He typed Zaria into the name box, staring at it for a long time before pressing submit. Brianna heard it on TikTok just after another clip about emotional detachment in women. It didn't feel like coincidence. She signed up while sitting in her guest house, ankle still sore, ice melting in the towel on her foot. Under partner's name, she wrote Omar. Orion caught it while scrolling YouTube. A podcast thumbnail with a warm voiced woman promising the truth about love. He didn't mean to listen, but something about her voice made him stop. When she said, "Sometimes the road you're on isn't broken, you just took the wrong passenger." He closed his eyes. He knew she was right. He signed up writing Bria in the partner field, close enough to be true, but far enough to hide. Simone listened during her morning walk. The air was cool, her mind heavier than the sky. She'd been looking for answers in books, in prayer, in silence, and all she found was more silence. When the host's voice said, "Ask your question, walk out with an answer," Simone whispered, "Okay." She signed up and wrote Isaac with a C, not a K, and kept walking. Isaac found the ad later that night at the pharmacy, half listening to the playlist on shuffle. He wasn't one for podcasts, but the title caught his eye. He paused, listened, and for some reason, it stung. Wrote Samantha, closed his phone before he could regret it. Maleka was sipping wine in her closet when she heard the voice. That smooth, calm tone that made everything sound like prophecy. She smiled bitterly. If only truth came this easy, she muttered, but she signed up anyway, using Tyson as the spouse name. Tyrell heard about it from his brother over lunch. "You ever heard that podcast, The Divine Route?" His brother asked. Tyrell shrugged. "She cute?" His brother laughed, but later in the car, Tyrell looked it up. By the end of the ad, he'd already decided under partner's name, he'd type Maya. And so, in one gray afternoon, 12 people signed up for the same event, each chasing answers they weren't ready for, each lying just enough to twist their fate. They didn't know it yet, but they were all heading toward the same collision, and this time, no one would make it out without damage. We need to talk. It started the same way for all of them. A serious, heart splitting. We need to talk. Silence first, then the glances. Unsure, fragile, waiting for someone to break the tension that had been years in the making. Nicole and Darius. The house was spotless, as it always was when Nicole was deep in thought about something she intended to avoid. But the last fight gnawed at her. His refusal to give in to her needs. His determination to be seen as a husband when all he could ever give was a paycheck and loneliness frustrated her. She pulled him to the side to talk, but they stood just far enough apart to feel the distance. Darius's fists hid in his pockets, teeth grinding, heart dragging behind her words as she recited his failures like line items on a receipt. When she initially asked him to talk, his first instinct was to rush out, mention the meeting he was missing, and then bounce. But he hadn't done that because he was trying to change. trying to give her the time she claimed to need. But in this moment, his efforts clearly didn't make a difference. There really is nothing else here for me anymore. He laughed, sharp and bitter, running his thumb over his lip to stop it from trembling. Some women would kill to have a working man, one who makes money to keep them comfortable. But you, hmm, you need time. Her eyes sharpened. So, you think a paycheck can sustain love? Guess you didn't learn much from your parents' divorce. The words hit him like a blunt instrument. His eyes squinted in anger for a moment. Then he straightened. What's that supposed to mean? It means you talked down on your dad, but you grew up to be just like him. Rich, successful, handsome, and divorced. Probably more than once before you realize dollar signs aren't a love language. His face cracked. His breath stalled. He held his chest like the air had been knocked out of him. Maybe I am just like my pops, he whispered, voice breaking. I definitely married the wrong woman. Nicole tilted her head back to keep the tears from spilling. Well, at least we both agree. And then that silence, the deafening sound of a love freezing over into bitterness. Both muttered the same words, overlapping like an echo in a hollow room. It's over. No one reached out. No one begged. Just two exhausted souls breathing in cold closure. Khalil and Zara. Zara sat curled on the couch, scrolling through her phone, pretending not to care. Khalil stood nearby, the storm behind him, and a bigger one raged between them. I just don't see this going much further. She didn't flinch. She just kept scrolling. Are we breaking up over a fib? Her voice dripped with performance, hiding the hurt. You removed your IUD without telling me. Seduced me to get pregnant knowing I didn't want kids. That's not a fib. She smiled thinly, rising to her feet. But you found out, didn't you? Don't make this bigger than it has to be, darling. She brushed a hand across his chest. Slow, familiar, weaponized. He caught her wrist, mid-motion. That's the issue. You lie, and then you cover it with sex. You use me until I feel empty. I'm starting to hate you. The word hit her like a slap. She stepped back, blinking hard but forcing her mask of composure to stay in its place. Perhaps you'd prefer a more homely woman, someone like your mother. She grabbed her bag, her voice turning cool again. List the condo. Price it like it was before my improvements. Keep whatever profit you need. That's how you want to end this? I don't fight for love, she said, tossing her ring onto the floor. I make it. The door slammed. Silence swelled, and that's when Khalil knew she long left before she actually walked out. Hassan and Kalisha. The kitchen smelled faintly of burnt toast and lavender detergent. Kalisha scrubbed a spotless plate, eyes distant. Hassan leaned on the counter, jaw locked. Were you even going to tell me? His hand slammed the counter with each word. She didn't look up, didn't blink. Just whispered, It's not yours. He froze. The silence between heartbeats was deafening. He already knew, but hearing it carved him hollow. And I'm not getting rid of my baby, she said finally. He wants us, the baby and me. I've seen what you offer. Pain, confusion, bruises. He gives me peace. But we still have the business to operate, and I really don't want to have to explain any of this to our family. So if you still want to stay married and accept my baby, I'll stay and fight. But I'd rather start over with him. Hassan's chest heaved, breath shallow and sharp. His brain whispered, "You deserve this." His heart screamed, "How could she?" He punched the wall once, twice, 3 times. She lost count, his hand leaving bloody crescents in the sheetrock. She didn't even flinch. She'd seen it too many times. Their walls looked like they'd been in their own war. So many holes they had stopped inviting people over. "Does that ever make anything better?" she asked, quiet but cutting. He roared, tears spilling, voice breaking. "What am I supposed to do with this, Cal?" "Accept it," she said. "Accept the pain like I had to, and move on." She walked away, her footsteps steady. He just stood there, hands shaking, walls bleeding, realizing Karma had finally learned his address. Brianna and Orion. The house was so quiet, yet Brianna pretended the silence didn't drive her fears deeper. She sat on the couch, poised, perfect, untouched, while he paced, unraveling every frustration word by word, calling her cold, distant, unreachable. "Been trying to show you different, trying to soften you, but I can't do the work for you, Bree." She smirked without warmth, sliding her gloss and charger into her bag. "I get it. You have your own issues to work through." He studied her like a stranger he used to know, and she wouldn't meet his eyes. "I think I need space." "Good," she said quickly, sprayed her perfume like punctuations as she continued getting ready for work. Her coldness had been the last straw, and he had nothing left to give. No more pulling or pushing. He just left. And the silence that followed was louder than his footsteps. She walked to the mirror by the door, staring at her reflection, the composed, untouchable woman she'd become. But the tears started to gather unexpectedly. She tried to stop them, held on to her pride, her ego. Crying over a man is what young girls do, right? But when one tear fell, she felt something shift. The ice cracked, the mask fell. The house even felt colder, bigger, emptier. And for the first time, Brianna realized her hardness hadn't protected her. It only kept love out. Simone and Isaac. The rain hit the glass in soft, rhythmic taps. Simone was folding laundry, biting her lip as she tucked each sleeve and pant leg neatly into place. The pill bottle she'd found in his pocket burned a hole in the spot on the bed where she'd thrown it. She couldn't stand touching it. It whispered the pain she'd spent months trying to bury. "You're not enough, and you never were." Isaac stood frozen, watching her. He hoped she wasn't doing exactly what she was already doing, blaming herself. He unlocked his phone and held out his medical chart, low testosterone highlighted across the screen, hoping it would ease her doubt. But prescriptions can't cure years of self-doubt and heartbreak. "See, it's not you," he said, pushing the phone toward her. She refused to take it. Her lip trembled as tears slid down her cheeks, fast and furious. "Is that why you barely look at me when I'm naked? You don't touch me, or even try? Is that caused by low testosterone?" "It can be," he murmured. But even he didn't sound convinced. She stood now, eye to eye with him, voice shaking. "You blame me for the miscarriage, for all of them. You always did, and now it's showing up like this." She wasn't wrong, but she wasn't right either. His logical side knew it wasn't her fault the pregnancies ended, but that last one was hard. He had told her to relax, and she hadn't. That part haunted him, but saying it out loud would destroy her. "Say it," she shouted. "Admit it." "I just wanted you to relax, like the doctor said, but you kept pushing, and No," she interrupted, trembling now. "I can't do this anymore." Her heart raced, pounding with the compounded weight of guilt and the realization that he did blame her. She wasn't ready to hear it out loud. I'm not giving up on us, he said. I am, she whispered. I already have. I feel bad enough. I can't stay knowing you blame me too. He looked up, startled, but deep down, he understood. Maybe his body knew before his mind did. Maybe it had been shutting down because he couldn't carry the secret anymore. He nodded slowly, stomach twisting. The pill bottle still sat on the bed between them, and now he didn't know what to do with them. Tyrell and Malika. The air between them was thick, heavy with the weight of everything that had been said too often. Malika stood by the closet door, arms crossed tight against her chest. Tyrell sat on the edge of the bed, rubbing the back of his neck, eyes down. I hate to do this, Ty. I really do. But it's her or me. His head lifted, eyes tired, jaw tight. You're telling me I have to choose between my mother and my wife? I'm telling you what I need. He rubbed harder, frustration painting his face red. The weight of it all pressed against his shoulders. So, if I stay in this marriage, I can't have a relationship with my mother. She laughed, sharply, one that rejected his plea, coldly. This is sick. She marched into the bedroom, pulling a suitcase from the closet. I shouldn't have to apologize for loving the woman who gave birth to me, he said, voice rising. Then don't, she fired back. Live with her. Make love to her. Just leave me alone. She shoved the packed suitcase toward him, gesturing at the door. It's that easy to end things for you? He asked, knuckles white on the handle, eyes wild. Two is company, she said coldly. Three is the crowd. He stood there, chest heaving, lips pressed together. Then he nodded slow, defeated. At the door, he paused. You know I love you, right? She blinked fast, forcing her voice to stay steady. Yeah, but you love her more. That's the problem. When the door closed, the silence hit her like thunder. She sank to the floor, clutching her knees, and let herself cry. When relationships hit a rough patch, we often focus on the distance. But that's not what drives the gap further. It's the silence. After years of tension, confusion, and disappointment, the silence can be a relief. And in that silence, we often hear confirmation that our partner's bad habits are not just mistakes or mishaps, but strategic moves planned to make us look stupid. In that silence, we move from, I don't know, to, I should have never married you. And those moments of clarity in the silence are louder than your vows and will always prevail because we trust ourselves more than we will ever trust a partner who failed to fulfill their role in the marriage. The Divine Route Live. Inside the Velvet Room, a sleek candlelit event space in the heart of downtown, a glowing signpost in gold. The Divine Route Live, wrong turn or final merge. Rows of velvet booths line the room like confessionals, each enclosed by sheer curtains, each with a flickering candle and a single chair facing a dark screen. No one could see anyone else. That was the point. The host, her face unseen by most of her listeners, her voice a kind of mythology by now, moved through the backstage area with practiced calm. Her producer followed, clipboard in hand. All 12 confirmed? All 12. He replied as he handed her the mic pack. She nervously inhaled as she observed all 12 of the guests on the screen. Nicole arrived first, alone, her hair slicked back, her face expressionless. The volunteers guided her to the booth. Inside, she placed her hand in her lap and whispered almost to herself, "I'm not doing anything wrong, just here to get clarity." Across the room, Tyrell checked in under a fake name, grumbling good naturedly at the registration desk. He didn't believe in this kind of thing, but something about the way his mama had smiled that morning made him think maybe it was worth trying. He looked up from his form just in time to see Nicole pass by. Their eyes met for half a second, warm, familiar, and then gone. He couldn't even explain the pull, only that for the first time in weeks he felt like smiling. Darius arrived next, sharp suit, crisp confidence, but a kind of nervous energy beneath it. He checked his watch, then looked up and froze. The host was standing by the stage adjusting her mic. Her voice, her face. It was her. The woman whose words had carried him through nights of silence. There was something magnetic about her presence in person. She caught him staring, offered a small, polite smile, the kind professionals give to strangers. That electric recognition, that magnetic draw. And when she stepped up to the mic, he couldn't look away. Zara slipped in next, alone. Designer dress, red lipstick, and eyes that hid 1,000 unfinished thoughts. She signed her name quickly and was ushered into a booth. A few tables away, Orion leaned against a wall watching her without realizing it. Something about her composure, the softness she carried even while still, it quieted the noise in his head. When she turned and caught him looking, she didn't flinch. She just smiled, and that smile hit him like warmth in winter. Simone walked in wearing oversized glasses, even though it was dim. She told herself it was to stay anonymous, but really, she didn't want anyone to see her heartbreak. She sat at the bar before her session, scrolling her phone to distract herself, and that's when a man's voice asked if the seat beside her was taken. It was the host's boyfriend. Charming, magnetic, the kind of confidence that made her shoulders relax. Before her brain caught up, they talked, small talk, safe talk, but the chemistry was instant, undeniable. And when he smiled and said, "You have a voice that sounds like deja vu," her stomach flipped. Hassan and Kalisha arrived minutes apart. Neither knew the other had come. He wore guilt like cologne. She wore fear like perfume. And somewhere in the crowd, the universe smirked because they were both about to collide with truths too heavy to carry. Malika came dressed like peace. Soft beige dress, curls loose, smile faint. But inside, she was already unraveling. When she saw Tyrell laughing with a woman she didn't recognize, Nicole, her stomach dropped. She told herself it was coincidence, that he was just being friendly, but her hands trembled as she hurried to her booth to avoid bumping into him. From backstage, the host watched the first crowd file in, all those restless souls looking for closure or confirmation. She didn't know all their names, but she knew their stories. They were the reason she did this. They were her mirror, her confession. Her producer gave her the signal. The lights dimmed. She stepped onto the stage. Welcome to the Divine Route, live. Tonight isn't about cold endings. It's about clarity. Sometimes love isn't wrong. It's just expired. And sometimes it's not broken. It's just waiting for both people to finally show up. She paused, scanning the crowd. Darius was on one of the 12 screens, watching her with eyes that said something sacred. The rain hadn't stopped all day. It hammered the city like a relentless heartbeat. Steady, wild, unstoppable. Inside the velvet room, the air hummed with tension. Each booth glowed softly. No one saw each other. No one spoke. Only the host. hidden in her soundproof studio, had eyes on all 12 screens. Every participant wore noise canceling headsets, hearing only the host's voice, calm, smooth, disarming. She guided them one by one, never naming names. Every exchange ended the same way, with a message flashing across the screen in white text. Final merge confirmed or wrong turn confirmed. They could ask anything during their session, anything their hearts needed to know, but when their timer hit zero, their booth light dimmed, and security would quietly guide them out a back exit. No one was supposed to cross paths. No one was supposed to know who else was there. That was the beauty and the danger of the Divine Route Live. Zara sat stiff, eyes darting around the small booth. Her heart beat so loud she could barely hear the soft hum of the host's voice through the speaker. Zara, the host said, calm but sure, your energy shows cycles of concealment, love tangled in deceit. You've built connection through beauty, but not truth. Zara's nails dug into her palm. Your route may not be final. It's repeating. At the same time, 2 rooms over, Khalil heard his own verdict. The bond you're fighting for has expired. You're driving the same road hoping for a different destination. He took off his headphones and exhaled shakily. The first tear didn't surprise him. It was the relief that followed that did. Simone sat forward in the velvet booth, heart pounding, the rain outside muffled by the soft hum of the headset. You've been patient. The host's voice came gently through her earpiece. But patience without connection becomes endurance. You deserve to be wanted, not tolerated. The words landed heavy, too precise, too true. She didn't answer, only stared at the message flashing across her screen. Wrong turn confirmed. For a moment, she forgot how to breathe. Across the hall in another booth, Isaac leaned back, eyes red from lack of sleep. The host's voice reached him next, calm, even, unflinching. You've confused guilt for effort, she said. Trying to prove your love doesn't mean you've healed enough to give it. You can't fix what you won't face. He swallowed hard, waiting for the words to appear on his screen. When they did, his chest caved. Wrong turn confirmed. They left their booths minutes apart, never crossing paths. 2 souls moving in opposite directions on the same road, still not realizing they'd already passed each other. Their sessions overlapped. Her first, his right after. You crave control because softness was never safe for you, the host said gently to Brianna. But love can't survive in war zones. Brianna sat still, hands clasped, eyes wet. Minutes later, Orion sat in the same chair. You can't teach someone to love gently, the host said. They have to want to unlearn the fight. When he walked out, he saw her across the lobby, eyes swollen, shoulders squared. They didn't speak, but both knew they'd reached the exit ramp. Kalicia's hands trembled as she pressed the mic. Your love is heavy with unfinished forgiveness, the host said softly. Sometimes what we think is repair really is repetition. Meanwhile, Hassan in another booth heard, some betrayals never end. They echo until someone finally listens. He pulled his phone from his pocket and scrolled a message he never meant to send. The one to her friend. The affair. The proof. His stomach turned, and when Kalisha left her booth minutes later, she saw him there, pale, wide-eyed, holding the phone like it was poison. Neither spoke. The silence was answer enough. They came separately, but their pain still arrived hand in hand. Malika sat rigid as the host's voice filled her headphones. Your love is crowded. There's a third passenger you never invited, and he calls her mama. Her breath hitched. Across the venue, Tyrell heard something different, but just as sharp. You can't be a husband if you're still someone's son first. When he stepped out, she was waiting by the door. The air between them was colder than the storm outside. Backstage, the host's voice shook for the first time all night. The producer leaned in. Last reading, he said. You ready? She nodded, but when she looked at the name flashing on the screen, Darius, her breath caught. He entered the booth quietly, headphones on, eyes already finding hers. He didn't know why he'd come. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe he needed clarity. Maybe he came for her. They had run into each other at the hot dog stand outside his firm as she was leaving a cafe in a hurry. They bumped into each other recklessly and his hot dog crashed to the ground. She apologized and offered to pay for it, but once she spoke, he lost concentration and became mesmerized by her velvety smooth voice. She gave him her card. He started listening to her podcast religiously just to hear her speak, but after the talk he and Nicole had, he needed clarity, and this is the only place he felt he could get it. When she walked in, time seemed to slow a bit. Her smile, her words, her movements were flowing like molasses off a silver spoon. She had a presence that pulled him in, but she was a podcast host. He assumed she had that effect on everyone. You've spent years fixing things with money and logic, but true love knows no logic. And you? He asked softly through the intercom. What are you fixing? Or trying to fix? The question hit her like a vision, made her snap out of host mode and back into human mode, where her flawed relationship was still the one thing she couldn't break free from. Still, she smiled faintly, the kind of smile that trembled at the corners. Maybe something that should stay broken. The lights dimmed around them, just the two of them glowing in the warm amber of the stage light. Two strangers, finally seeing each other. Two souls, realizing they'd been talking for years without knowing it. The host and Darius had gotten lost in conversation and lost in time. Her producer's alerts about the schedule blurred into background noise as they lingered in the velvety glow of his booth. Darius didn't ask the usual surface questions. He asked about her day, her past, her wounds. For the first time in years, she felt seen, not as the voice of divine love, but as a woman with cracks of her own. They didn't notice how close they drifted until the shouting started. A violent argument echoed from the main hall. The host's body tensed. Instinct kicked in. I should go check that, she whispered. I'll come, Darius said, already standing. It sounds bad. They moved through the maze of velvety drapes and warm light, their hands brushing as he instinctively guided her behind him when they reached the door. The noise grew sharper. Curses, glass breaking, the chaos of betrayal rising like a second storm. Then she saw them. Hassan, Kalisha, and Greg. Her Greg. Hassan's voice thundered through the room. You got my wife pregnant. He tore off his jacket, fists cocked, veins raised like cables. Greg's face twisted, red and guilty. I didn't do anything she didn't want. The host froze. Her heart stopped. Greg? She whispered, stepping forward. What's going on here? Greg's eyes darted, shame spreading across his face. Baby, I can explain. Explain what? She demanded, voice cracking. You're sleeping with my client. The whole lobby turned, whispers flaring. Kalisha stepped forward, chin trembling but proud. We're not together anymore, she said, glaring at Hassan. I told you what I wanted. After you got pregnant by another man. That's dirty, Kalisha. Oh, please, she shot back. Let's talk about how you slept with my best friend and thought I'd never find out. The room gasped. Hassan went still, like he'd been hit in the head with the truth itself. He said nothing. He couldn't. Yeah, I know, Kalisha spat, voice shaking. I was going to let you go with your dignity, but you're too busy embarrassing yourself. So go ahead, throw your tantrum like always. The wall still looks like Swiss cheese from the last one. Hassan growled. We're even now. The tension snapped like a wire. Nicole's voice sliced through the chaos as she appeared in the doorway, drawn by the noise. Oh, so you do have empathy, she sneered, watching Darius step closer to the host, protectively. Just not for your wife, I guess. The room erupted, voices overlapping, couples colliding, betrayals bleeding into one another. Then Hassan stormed out, silent, trembling. For a brief shaky second, it felt like the chaos had peaked. The host exhaled, trying to steady herself. Then the door slammed open again. Hassan stood there, drenched, eyes wild, gun in hand. The screams came first. People dove, tables overturned, the emergency lights flickered like blood in motion. The host's body moved before her mind did. She lunged toward Kalisha, shoving her aside just as Hassan raised the gun toward Greg. The sound cracked the air, deafening, final. Some crashes happen in slow motion. Others hit all at once. And in love, the cleanup is never clean. Tonight, the wreckage wasn't on the road. It was inside every one of us. Some will merge, some will exit, and some will never make it out. But remember, the divine route doesn't lie.
I wanna take it back, but I can't. I wanna leave it behind, but I can't. It's not easy to love it, darling. It's not easy to love it, darling. I should've left you in the moment. I should've told you all the problems. It's not easy to love you, baby. It's not easy to love you, baby. It's not easy to love you, baby. You just run, you don't talking. Don't wanna be behind you, baby. Behind you, baby. Let it go, let it go, let it fly. It's not love, it's not love, it's not the time. Let it go, let it go, let it fly. It's not love, it's not love, it's not